The Carter estate blazed with lights that Tuesday evening, every window glowing like a beacon of wealth and excess. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting rainbow prisms across the marble floors, where guests in designer gowns and tailored suits mingled with champagne flutes in hand. The air hummed with orchestral music and the buzz of high society conversation. Everyone gathered to celebrate the engagement of Vanessa Carter, 2, Thomas Worthington, 3. Heir to a pharmaceutical empire, Jessica Carter stood near the back terrace, doors wearing a simple navy dress that her mother had dismissed as dull that morning. She held a glass of sparkling water, not champagne, because even that small indulgence felt like asking for too much. At 26, she had learned to make herself small, to occupy as little space as possible in a family that had never wanted her to take up any room at all. Across the ballroom, Vanessa held court like a queen, her diamond ring catching the light with every gesture. She was everything Jessica was not: confident, polished, beloved. Their mother Eleanor stood beside her, one manicured hand resting possessively on Vanessa's shoulder, beaming with pride. Their father Richard worked the room with his usual commanding presence, shaking hands and accepting congratulations as if he himself were getting married. Jessica took a sip of her water and tried to ignore the familiar ache in her chest. She had long ago accepted her role as the forgotten daughter, the one who hadn't quite measured up. While Vanessa had excelled at everything from academics to social graces, Jessica had simply existed in the background, never quite good enough to earn their parents' approval. A waiter passed by with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, and Jessica reached for one, but her mother's voice cut through the noise like a knife. "Jessica, really, must you hover near the food like that? People will think we don't feed you." Heat flooded Jessica's face as several nearby guests turned to look. She pulled her hand back, the waiter moving awkwardly away. Eleanor glided over, her smile tight and cold. "Why don't you make yourself useful and check on the coat room? I'm sure someone needs to organize something back there." It was a dismissal, pure and simple. Jessica nodded mutely and turned away, but not before catching the pitying glances from some of the guests. Pity was somehow worse than invisibility. She had just reached the hallway when Vanessa's voice rang out, amplified by the microphone someone had handed her. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Your love and support mean everything to Thomas and me." Vanessa paused, her eyes scanning the crowd with practiced charm. "I especially want to thank my incredible parents who taught me what true success looks like, and who never settled for anything less than excellence." The words were like barbs, each one designed to draw blood. Jessica knew because she had heard variations of this speech her entire life. It was the settling, the less than excellent, the disappointment her parents had learned to ignore. But then Vanessa continued, and Jessica froze in the hallway. "You know, growing up I always knew I wanted to be nothing like my sister. Jessica showed me exactly what not to do with your life. While she drifted through community college and dead-end jobs, I was building my future. So in a way I should thank her too. She was the perfect example of wasted potential." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not everyone, but enough. Enough that Jessica felt her lungs constrict, her vision narrowing to a tunnel. She heard her father's booming laugh, saw her mother's approving nod through the doorway. Something inside her shattered. She didn't remember grabbing her coat, didn't remember pushing through the front doors into the cold November night. One moment she was standing in that hallway, the next she was running down the long driveway, her heels clicking against the pavement, rain beginning to fall in cold, stinging drops. The tears came hot and fast, blurring her vision. Years of swallowed hurt poured out in wrenching sobs that tore from her throat. She ran until her legs ached, until the mansion was far behind her, until she found herself on a deserted street corner in an upscale neighborhood she barely recognized. The rain intensified, soaking through her thin coat, plastering her hair to her face. Jessica collapsed onto a bus stop bench, hugging herself as the cold seeped into her bones. She had no phone, she realized, had left it in her purse back at the house. Had left everything. She was utterly, completely alone. Headlights suddenly illuminated the rain, a sleek black car pulling up to the curb. Jessica tensed, instinct telling her to run, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. The driver's side door opened, and a man stepped out into the downpour. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive suit that the rain immediately began to ruin, but he didn't seem to care. He had dark hair, strong features, and eyes that fixed on Jessica with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Going to catch pneumonia out here," he said, his voice deep and steady. Jessica tried to speak, but only managed a choked sound. The man stepped closer, and she realized she recognized him. Ryan Blackwood. She had seen his face in business magazines, on billboards advertising his luxury hotel chain. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country, and he was standing in the rain, looking at her like she mattered. "I know who you are," he said quietly, pulling off his jacket and draping it around her shoulders. The warmth was immediate and overwhelming. "Jessica Carter. I've seen you at these society functions, always on the edges, always overlooked." "How do you?" she whispered. "I pay attention." His eyes never left hers. "I've watched your family treat you like you're invisible for 2 years now, and every time I've wanted to tell you that you're worth 100 of them." Jessica stared at him, unable to process the words. This had to be a dream, some kind of breakdown-induced hallucination. Ryan crouched down so they were eye level, rain streaming down his face. "Come with me. Right now. I have a car, a warm apartment, and a life where you'll never be invisible again." "I don't understand," Jessica managed. "Why would you? Because I see you," he interrupted, his voice fierce. "Because you deserve better than what they've given you. Because from this moment on, you're mine to protect, to care for, to show the world how extraordinary you really are." His hand extended toward her, steady and sure. "What do you say, Jessica? Will you let me prove to you what I already know?" The rain fell harder, washing away the tears, washing away the past. Jessica looked at his hand, then at his face, seeing something in his eyes she had never seen directed at her before. Absolute certainty. She placed her trembling hand in his. "Yes," she whispered. Ryan's fingers closed around hers, warm and protective, and he pulled her to her feet. As he guided her toward the waiting car, Jessica felt something shift inside her chest. Terror and hope tangled together. Forming something new and fragile, she didn't look back at the direction of the Carter state, she only looked forward. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing a penthouse that took Jessica's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city's skyline, raindrops racing down the glass like diamonds. The interior was modern yet warm, all clean lines and comfortable furnishings in shades of cream and charcoal. It was nothing like the cold, ornate excess of the Carter mansion. This place felt lived in, real. Ryan guided her inside with a gentle hand on her back, and Jessica realized she was still shivering, her clothes dripping onto the hardwood floor. "The bathroom is through there," Ryan said, pointing to a hallway. "There are towels, robes, everything you need. Take your time. I'll make some tea." Jessica nodded mutely and walked in the direction he indicated, her wet shoes squeaking with each step. The bathroom was spa-like, all marble and soft lighting. She caught sight of herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her makeup had run in dark streaks, her hair hung in wet tangles, and her eyes looked haunted. She stripped off the soaked clothing and stepped into the shower, letting hot water cascade over her until feeling returned to her numb limbs. The tears came again, quieter this time, mixing with the water and disappearing down the drain. She cried for the little girl who had tried so hard to earn love that would never come. She cried for all the years wasted hoping her family would see her. And finally, she cried in relief that maybe, just maybe, those years were over. When she emerged wrapped in a plush robe, her hair turbaned in a towel, Ryan was in the kitchen. He had changed into dark jeans and a fitted sweater, looking more human and somehow more intimidating without the formal suit. He poured steaming liquid into 2 mugs and gestured for her to sit on the oversized couch. Jessica curled into the corner, accepting the mug gratefully. The tea was chamomile with honey, soothing and sweet. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything. I still don't understand why you're doing this." Ryan settled into the chair across from her, his gaze steady and unwavering. "I told you. I've been watching you." Not in a creepy way, he added with a slight smile. "But I attend a lot of the same events as your family. Charity galas, business dinners, society functions, and I've seen how they treat you." Jessica looked down at her tea, shame heating her cheeks. "So you pity me?" "No." His voice was firm enough that her eyes snapped up to meet his. "I admire you. Do you have any idea how strong you have to be to endure what you've endured and still show up? Still try? Most people would have broken or become bitter. But you just kept going." I don't feel strong, Jessica whispered. I feel like a coward who should have left years ago. Ryan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Can I tell you something? 6 months ago, I was at the Metropolitan Art Gala. Your mother was holding court, talking about Vanessa's latest achievement. You were standing near a sculpture, completely absorbed in reading the placard. Some man bumped into you hard enough that you dropped your glass. It shattered everywhere. And you know what you did? Jessica shook her head, not remembering the incident at all. You apologized to him? Then you got down on your knees in your evening gown and started picking up the glass pieces yourself so no one else would get hurt. The staff tried to stop you, but you insisted on helping clean up. That's when I knew. Knew what? That you were special. That underneath all that conditioning your family subjected you to, there was someone extraordinary waiting to emerge. Ryan's eyes held hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. I started paying more attention after that. I watched how you lit up when you thought no one was looking. How you were kind to staff members when your family was dismissive. How you had this quiet grace that had nothing to do with breeding or money. Jessica felt something crack open inside her chest. Something that had been sealed shut for so long she had forgotten it existed. Hope. I don't know how to be extraordinary, she admitted. I don't even know who I am outside of being the disappointment. Then let's find out together. Ryan stood and extended his hand again, just as he had in the rain. Stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out the rest. But I promise you, Jessica, you will never be treated as less than again. Not while I'm around. She took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. They stood close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. Why does this feel like a fairy tale? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Because maybe it is, he replied. But the best kind? The kind where the princess saves herself, and the prince just provides the transportation. Despite everything, Jessica laughed. It was a small, broken sound, but it was real. Ryan's answering smile transformed his face from handsome to devastating. There it is, he said softly. I was wondering what your real laugh sounded like. Morning arrived with pale sunlight streaming through the windows. Jessica woke in a guest bedroom so comfortable she had slept dreamlessly for the first time in months. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the previous night came rushing back. She had left. Actually left. And Ryan Blackwood, billionaire hotel magnate, had taken her in like she mattered. Panic seized her chest. What was she doing? She had no phone, no clothes, no plan. The Carter family would be furious. They would come looking for her. Not out of love, but because she had embarrassed them by disappearing. Jessica threw back the covers and padded into the main living area, where she found Ryan on his laptop at the dining table, phone pressed to his ear. He was already dressed in another impeccable suit, clearly ready for a business day, but he smiled when he saw her and held up one finger. I don't care what the board thinks, Mitchell. Make it happen. I'll be in the office by 10. He ended the call and set the phone down. Good morning. How did you sleep? Better than I have in years, Jessica admitted, tightening the robe around herself. But Ryan, I need to think about what happens next. I can't just hide here. You're not hiding. You're regrouping. He stood and moved to the kitchen, pulling out ingredients. And while you regroup, I have a proposition for you. Jessica's stomach dropped. Here it was. The catch. The real reason he had helped her. What kind of proposition? Ryan cracked eggs into a bowl, his movements efficient. I'm opening a new luxury resort in Colorado next month. I need someone to manage the guest experience program. Someone who understands what it's like to be overlooked and can ensure that never happens to our guests. Someone with grace under pressure and genuine empathy. He looked up at her, his expression serious. I think that someone is you. Jessica gaped at him. You want to give me a job? I have a degree in English literature from community college, and I've worked as a bookstore clerk and a museum docent. I have no qualifications for luxury hospitality. You have exactly the qualifications that matter. The rest you can learn. Ryan poured the eggs into a heated pan. I'm not offering this out of charity, Jessica. I'm offering it because I think you'll be brilliant at it. But it's your choice. You can take the job, build something of your own, or you can walk out that door right now. Either way, you're free. Free. The word echoed in her mind like a bell. When was the last time she had been free? And if I fail? She asked quietly. Then you fail, and you try something else. That's how life works when you're not being crushed under impossible expectations. Ryan plated the scrambled eggs along with toast and fresh fruit, setting everything on the table. But I don't think you're going to fail. Jessica sat down slowly, staring at the food. At this man who had appeared in her life like a storm and turned everything upside down. Why do you believe in me when no one else ever has? Ryan sat across from her, his gaze soft but intense. Because I see you, Jessica. The real you. And she's magnificent. Tears pricked her eyes again, but this time they were different. Not tears of pain, but of possibility. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll do it. Ryan's smile could have powered the entire city. 3 days later, Jessica stood in Ryan's corporate office, wearing a borrowed outfit from his assistant, facing a laptop screen showing news coverage of the Carter family. Local socialite Jessica Carter has been reported missing following her sister's engagement party. The news anchor announced, the family is asking anyone with information to come forward. Jessica's phone, which Ryan had retrieved from the Carter mansion through a lawyer, buzzed constantly with messages. From her mother demanding she stop this childish behavior, from her father threatening to cut her off financially, not that she had ever been on, from Vanessa calling her selfish and dramatic, nothing had changed. They still saw her as a problem to manage, not a person to worry about. You don't have to respond, Ryan said from beside her. Not until you're ready. Jessica looked at him, this man who had given her shelter, opportunity, and something she had never expected to find, respect. Over the past 3 days, she had seen him in action, running his empire with sharp intelligence and surprising compassion. He was demanding but fair, powerful but kind. And the way he looked at her made her feel like she was the only person in the room. I'm ready, she said. She opened her laptop and began typing an email to her family. The message was short and clear. She was safe, she was leaving, and she would not be returning. She did not owe them explanations or apologies. She was simply done. When she hit send, the weight that had pressed on her chest for 26 years lifted. Ryan's hand found hers on the desk, his fingers intertwining with hers. How do you feel? Jessica turned to look at him, really look at him, and realized that somewhere in the past few days, her feelings had shifted into something deeper, more dangerous, more real. Terrified, she admitted. And alive. So incredibly alive. His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand, sending shivers up her arm. Good. That's exactly where you should be. Their eyes met and held, the air between them charged with possibility and promise. Jessica felt her breath catch as Ryan leaned closer, his intention clear in his darkening gaze. Tell me to stop, he murmured, and I will. But Jessica had spent her entire life stopping herself, holding back, making herself smaller. Not anymore. She closed the distance between them and kissed him. 2 months transformed Jessica Carter's world beyond recognition. The Colorado resort opened to rave reviews, with particular praise for the personalized guest experience program that Jessica had developed. She had thrown herself into the work with a passion she never knew she possessed. Discovering that she had an intuitive understanding of what made people feel valued and seen, Ryan had been right. She was brilliant at it. But more than the professional success, it was the personal transformation that left her breathless. Each morning, she woke up in the small apartment Ryan had helped her lease near the resort. And she chose her own clothes, made her own decisions, lived her own life. No one told her she wasn't good enough. No one compared her to her sister. No one made her feel invisible. And through it all, Ryan was there. Not hovering or controlling, but supporting. He visited the resort twice a week, always making time to have dinner with Jessica, to hear about her challenges and victories, to make her laugh with stories from his own corporate battles. Their relationship had deepened from that first kiss into something neither of them had anticipated. Real, profound love. Jessica was in her office reviewing guest feedback surveys when her assistant knocked tentatively. Ms. Carter? There are some people here to see you. They say they're your family. Jessica's pen froze mid-notation. She had successfully avoided direct contact with the Carters for 2 months, responding only to legal communications through Ryan's attorney. What were they doing here? Show them to the conference room, Jessica said, proud that her voice remained steady. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." She took those 5 minutes to breathe, to center herself, to remember that she was not the same woman who had fled into the rain. Then she walked into the conference room with her head high. Eleanor. Richard and Vanessa sat around the polished table, looking out of place in their Manhattan designer clothing against the rustic Colorado luxury. Her mother's face was tight with barely concealed anger, her father's expression calculating. Vanessa looked uncomfortable, which was perhaps the most surprising thing. "Jessica," Eleanor began, her tone falsely warm. "Finally, we've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I received your messages," Jessica replied calmly, remaining standing. "I chose not to respond." "What are you doing here?" Richard leaned back in his chair, attempting his usual domineering posture. "We're here because this nonsense has gone on long enough. You've made your point, embarrassed us sufficiently. It's time to come home." "I am home," Jessica said simply. "This is where I live and work now." "Work?" Eleanor's laugh was sharp. "Playing hotel manager for your billionaire boyfriend is not a career, Jessica. It's a phase. And frankly, we need you back for the Worthington merger." Jessica felt a cold understanding settle over her. "What does the Worthington merger have to do with me?" Vanessa shifted uncomfortably, looking at her parents, then at Jessica. "Thomas's family is very traditional. They're concerned about family unity. They've made it clear that they expect all family members to be present and supportive for the wedding and subsequent business dealings." "So you need me to play the happy daughter for appearances?" Jessica said flatly. "To pretend we're a loving family, so your merger goes through smoothly?" "It's a family obligation," Richard said firmly. "We've supported you your entire life, and now we're asking for something in return." The audacity of that statement nearly made Jessica laugh. They had never supported her, never valued her, never seen her as anything but a disappointment. And now they wanted her to prop up their business deal? "No," she said. The single word seemed to echo in the silence that followed. "Excuse me?" Eleanor's voice dripped ice. "No," Jessica repeated, stronger this time. "I won't come back. I won't pretend we're something we're not. You humiliated me my entire life, treated me as less than, and the only time I matter to you is when you need something. So my answer is no." Richard stood abruptly, his face reddening. "You ungrateful little, I think you should leave." The new voice came from the doorway. Ryan stood there in a charcoal suit, his presence commanding and protective. He walked into the room and stood beside Jessica, his hand finding the small of her back in a gesture of solidarity. "Mr. Blackwood," Richard tried to regain his composure. "This is a family matter." "Jessica is family to me," Ryan said coolly, "and I won't stand here and watch you bully her. She's given you her answer. I suggest you respect it." Eleanor stood as well, her eyes flashing between Jessica and Ryan. "This is about him, isn't it? He's poisoned you against us, filled your head with ideas." "No," Jessica said, her voice ringing clear. "He opened my eyes to what I deserved. He showed me that I was worth more than scraps of attention and conditional love. But I'm the one who chose to leave. I'm the one who built this new life. And I'm the one telling you now that I'm done." She took a deep breath, feeling Ryan's steady presence beside her, and continued. "I don't hate you. I actually feel sorry for you. Because you're so focused on image and status that you never learned how to actually love someone? Vanessa, I hope you find happiness with Thomas, truly. But I won't be at your wedding. Mom, Dad, I wish you well, but I won't be coming back to New York." Vanessa stood slowly, her eyes glistening. "Jess, I'm sorry. For what I said at the party? For all of it. I was terrible to you." Jessica felt her anger soften slightly at the genuine regret in her sister's voice. "I appreciate that, but an apology doesn't undo 26 years. Maybe someday we can rebuild something, but not now. Not like this." Eleanor grabbed her purse with sharp, angry movements. "You're making a huge mistake. When this little romance falls apart and your job disappears, don't come crawling back to us." "I won't," Jessica promised. "Because even if everything fell apart tomorrow, I would still have something you never gave me. Belief in myself." Richard moved toward the door, his expression hard. "You're no longer a Carter as far as we're concerned." "Good," Jessica said, and meant it. "I never really was anyway." The three of them filed out. Eleanor and Richard, radiating fury. Vanessa, pausing at the door to look back once with something like regret before following. When they were gone, Jessica's legs suddenly felt weak. Ryan caught her, guiding her into a chair and kneeling beside her. "You were amazing," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm shaking," Jessica admitted with a shaky laugh, "because you just did something incredibly brave." Ryan took both her hands in his. "Jessica, I need to tell you something. I should have told you sooner, but I was afraid of scaring you away." Jessica's heart stuttered. "What is it?" "I'm in love with you." The words were simple, direct, and utterly sincere. "I think I started falling for you that night in the rain, watching you be so vulnerable and so strong all at once. And every day since, I've fallen deeper. I love your kindness, your resilience, your brilliant mind. I love the way you notice small details and the way you light up when you talk about guest experiences. I love you, Jessica. All of you." Tears spilled down Jessica's cheeks, but these were tears of joy so pure it almost hurt. "I love you too. God, Ryan, I love you so much it terrifies me." He stood, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "Don't be terrified. Be excited. Because I'm going to spend every day proving to you how extraordinary you are." Jessica looked up at him, this man who had saved her by showing her how to save herself. "Promise me something?" "Anything. Promise me you'll never stop seeing me. The real me." Ryan cupped her face in his hands, his eyes intense and full of promise. "Jessica Carter, I will never stop seeing you. You are the most visible, vibrant, incredible woman I have ever known. And if you'll have me, I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget that." He kissed her then, deep and passionate and full of promise. Jessica melted into him, letting herself feel everything she had suppressed for so long: desire, hope, love, joy. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, she was smiling wider than she ever had before. "So what happens now?" she asked. Ryan grinned, that devastating smile that made her heart race. Now we live. We build. We love. We create something beautiful together. Your family tried to make you small, but Jessica, you were always meant to shine." Jessica looked out the conference room window at the snow-capped mountains beyond. At the resort she had helped bring to life, at the world of possibility stretching before her. She thought about the girl who had fled into the rain, broken and defeated, and the woman standing here now, whole and fierce and free. "I'm ready," she said. Turning back to Ryan, "I'm ready to shine." He took her hand, interlacing their fingers. "Then let's light up the whole damn sky." 6 months later, Jessica stood in a different conference room in the same resort, presenting her guest experience program expansion to a room full of hospitality executives. Her own company, not Ryan's, though he sat in the back row watching with obvious pride. She had taken the skills she developed and launched her own consulting firm, helping luxury properties worldwide create more personalized, empathetic guest experiences. The presentation ended to enthusiastic applause. As the executives filed out, already talking about contracts and partnerships, Ryan made his way to the front. "You were magnificent," he said, pulling her into his arms. "I had a good teacher," Jessica replied, kissing him softly. "You had natural talent. I just gave you the space to discover it." Ryan pulled back slightly, his expression suddenly nervous in a way she had never seen before. "Actually, speaking of space, I was hoping you might be willing to share some of yours." Jessica tilted her head, confused. "What do you mean?" Ryan took a deep breath and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, dropping to one knee right there in the empty conference room. Jessica's hands flew to her mouth, her heart threatening to beat right out of her chest. "Jessica Carter, you transformed my life the moment you took my hand in the rain. You showed me what real strength looks like, what true grace means. I don't just love you, I admire you. I respect you. I am in awe of you every single day. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your partner in this extraordinary life you're building?" Through tears of absolute joy, Jessica pulled him to his feet. "Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes." Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unique and stunning, just like everything else he had given her. They kissed as the Colorado sun set outside, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Jessica had been humiliated by her family, had run into the rain in tears. But that night had not been an ending. It had been a beginning. The beginning of discovering who she really was. The beginning of understanding her own worth. The beginning of a love that saw her, truly saw her. For the first time in her life, she had been told she would never shine, that she would always be a shadow. They had been wrong. Jessica Carter blazed like the sun, and nothing would ever dim her light again. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click like, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.